Everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. I have an update to share about two of Trump's Capitol insurrectionists. It's time for an episode of Where Are They Now?
Matthew Bledsoe was arrested.
Patrick Montgomery was in court.
Jonathan Manapa will stay in federal custody.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
So 34-year-old Brandon Miller and his wife, 30-year-old Stephanie Miller, are from Ohio. And the day prior to the Capitol attack, Brandon wrote on Facebook saying, quote, "How much longer are we the people going to let 535 people tell 330 million people what to do? They work for us. We pay them." He also privately messaged another Facebook user, and he wrote in part, quote, "Heading to DC for tomorrow the 6th, me and Stephanie are going to witness history." The couple was, in fact, seen on surveillance video. They entered the Capitol through a broken window and they walked around inside the building. And Brandon actually live streamed to Facebook as they walked around. He was also caught on body cam footage making an obscene remark as he passed Capitol Police. And on the evening of January 6th, Brandon posted on Facebook and said, quote, "Don't believe what the news is telling you, and we're telling to it now, and it's so biased. I was there in DC. There is no way Biden won." Did he think that was election day? Like, what is he talking about? No way Biden won. I don't know. Maybe he was referring to the crowd size. I mean, so many of these Trump supporting men, they're very preoccupied with size, aren't they? Wonder why. Anyway, he continued to share photos of himself and his wife inside the building. And one of his contacts asked him at one point if he got in trouble. And Brandon replied, quote, "No, not yet anyway. LOL. We just walked down the main hallway." And he continued to downplay what took place that day. And then he threw some shade at the caricature that the right-wing media has perpetrated about BLM protests. Brandon wrote, quote, "We was there. It was peaceful. Yeah, we got in the Capitol, but wasn't burning down the city or destroying businesses. Just a couple broke windows in a taxpayer's building. They work for us." I'm reading this exactly as it's written, guys. So don't blame me. No punctuation whatsoever, except for a random erroneous period after the word "the." And Stephanie echoed Brandon's comments and sentiments below one of his Facebook posts. She wrote on his Facebook page, quote, "We were there today, and yes, there was a 25-year-old girl shot. Just so it's clear, this is not what this looked like by any means, and that hanging shit was nowhere around. What a shame pictures and media try to make something out to be when it wasn't. Until you're physically there and seen it, then you're lying to yourself. What an experience it was and feeling to have after." And in a private Facebook message, Stephanie told a contact, quote, "We're hoping we don't get charges, but we'll proudly take them if so." In another message, she wrote in part, quote, "Enjoyed every part of what we did and was a part of." So Mr. and Miller were arrested on March 12th, but because they didn't assault any officers or cause any damage, they were charged with the same 4 misdemeanors we've seen with hundreds of others. You guys know them by now, but I'll repeat them for new viewers. Entering restricted building or grounds, 2 counts of disorderly conduct, parading or demonstrating in a Capitol building. So in September, the Millers pleaded guilty to the parading charge. They were each facing up to 6 months in prison and thousands of dollars in fines and restitution. But most of these low-level offenders have gotten a slap on the wrist, as you guys know, strictly probation. The problem was that this couple drew the short stick. They ended up with Judge Tanya Chutkan, my new Shiro. And although it wasn't a long sentence, not as long as I would have liked, she did give them some time behind bars. But before that happened, There were letters filed with the court. They were begging for leniency. Stephanie's submission expressed contrition. She wrote in part, quote, "I do understand that there were items destroyed and people hurt during this all happening. And to those families of those people, I'm truly sorry that I chose to be around people that did cause all of that." She also told the judge that she has, quote, "paid dearly for my decision." Brandon didn't write a letter to the judge himself, but he did submit letters written on his behalf by his family members. And it was noted that some family members are no longer speaking to him because of January 6th. This includes his grandmother. So prosecutors were asking for a short period of home confinement and 36 months of probation. And the Miller's attorney was asking for no house arrest whatsoever. They just community service, a short probationary period. Well, Judge Chutkin pointed out the seriousness of their actions. At the sentencing, she said, quote, "They didn't just walk through a door. They climbed through a broken window. They knew full well of the violence that had preceded their entry. The fact is that they were part of a mob that was intent on stopping the lawful transfer of power. It amounted to an attempted overthrow of the government." Chutkin also mentioned how the January 6 defendants only ever talk about their own feelings. She said, quote, "I never hear any remorse for the people who suffered that day, for the police officers who lost their lives, for the people who worked in that building who were terrified they'd never see their families again. All I hear about is how the defendants suffered." She's so right. All these people do is whine and cry about what they've lost, how their lives have been affected. It just goes to show they've learned nothing. The selfishness and entitled attitude that drove them to the Capitol to begin with, their me attitudes have not changed. That's who they are. So anyway, Judge Chutkin went on to explain why she had to sentence them to jail time. She said, quote, "The country is watching. There have to be consequences for participating in an attempt to overthrow the government." So she ended up giving Brandon 20 days in jail. Stephanie received a 14-day sentence. In addition, they each have to complete 60 hours of community service, and they have to pay a $500 restitution fee. She has, however, allowed them to serve their sentence at different times so that one of them can be there at all times to care for Stephanie's son while the other one is in prison. Judge Chutkin was also way too kind. She said that they could report to jail after the holidays. When would you ever see that with, a right-wing judge and, say, BLM protesters? Never, ever. First of all, they would be going to prison for a lot longer than 15 and 20 days or 14 and 20 days. And they definitely wouldn't be able to spend the holidays with their families. So anyway, guys, I'll let you know when I hear more. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Take care. I'll talk with you soon.